Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Mozart's Die Zauberflöte, live from the Metropolitan Opera House, which I saw last night at the Kino in der Kulturbrauerei. The conductor was James Levine. The production, costumes, and puppetry were done by Julie Taymor. The sets were done by George Zippin. The lights were handled by Donald Holder. The assistant puppet master was Michael Curry. The choreographer was Mark Dendy. And the filmographer was Gary Halverson. My very first experience with Julie Taymor was through her very famous production of the Broadway musical version of The Lion King, in which her use of puppetry, bright colors, elaborate choreography, and an overall great visual aesthetic certainly grew on me. It was also evident in her production of The Magic Flute through a couple of YouTube clips and even through seeing a couple of production stills. Over time, Madame Taymor certainly has become a household name in the theater world, all thanks to her great visual appeal and, of course, her great use of elaborate choreography, elaborate costumes, and, of course, everything that has a sense of elaborateness all throughout. And I was also anticipating this production of The Magic Flute live from the Met because Golda Schultz, a very fabulous South African lyric soprano, made her Met debut as Pamina. And I will gladly talk about her performance alongside her other colleagues' performances. But first, my thoughts on Madame Taymor's production of The Magic Flute. What more can I say about it? It is absolutely gorgeous, aesthetically pleasing, and it is, simply put, a visual feast. What I really love about this production of The Magic Flute is that it makes a great use of colors, whether they be bright colors like yellow or sky blue, to even darker colors like crimson or dark blue, or even a harsher shade of red. Each and every color, simply put, meshes together so well. And I also love the great usage of masks, and especially some kabuki style makeup, which are quite evident in the likes of Tamino, the Queen of the Night, Zarastro, and even some of his underlings like the Speaker of the Temple, the two priests, and even the two armed men. And each and every single costume was very appealing, especially that of the Queen's costumes. In the first act, she basically represents herself to be pure, beautiful, and innocent, with colors being used like white and sky blue, and she manages to make that reflect her suffering as a mother and her overall purity as a goddess-like entity, which makes her radiate so well in her first act aria, O zittre nicht, mein lieber Sohn. And then when we go to her vengeance aria, Der Hölle Rache, we see that the Queen now has long red nails, and there is a little bit of red not only through her costume but also in the backdrops to show that the Queen is now an avenging angel out for blood, and she will stop at nothing, and she is going to use her daughter as a means to end Zarastro's life. For if Pamina does not do Zarastro in, she will definitely be disowned by the Queen of the Night herself. And that usage of red makes the Queen stand out so well, and it also makes that aria even more exhilarating, yet so threatening to watch. And in the final moments of the opera, we see the Queen all decked in red to show that she certainly means business when it comes to destroying Zarastro's temple, but she ultimately fails alongside her cronies, Monostatos, and the three ladies. And I also love Papageno's costume, which makes her look like strawberry shortcake. And of course, Pamina's costume was simple yet elegant, and of course lovely. And as I stated before, each and every costume was aesthetically wonderful, And of course, the choreography was well handled. So overall, Julie Taymor and her crew certainly led a magnificent production of the Magic Flute, with a great use of vibrant colors and elaborate choreography, and of course, some kabuki styles to match the overall mythical nature of this opera. This production of the Magic Flute was a veritable visual feast. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Charles Castronovo as Tamino. And in terms of his experiences singing the role of Tamino, he has been singing this role all over the world in a lot of the major opera houses. And his experience when it comes to singing Tamino definitely does show. I also love those few moments where he was in a kung fu pose when trying to face off against the dragon, and even when he vows to battle against Zarastro, even though Zarastro is actually the good guy and the queen villainess. I certainly love those little moments that he had when he was able to go in that kung fu pose, because it sort of made him look quite badass. And it made him look really awesome, and it also made him quite heroic as Tamino. And speaking of heroic, he even stated in an interview that Tamino has been sung by a lot of lyric and dramatic tenors from all over the world, and not only does Tamino have to sing lyrically, but he also has to act and sing dramatically, which Mr. Castronovo certainly did. What I noticed about his voice is that it is not a typical lyric tenor voice. It's not a bright and breezy sound, but the brightness that he has in his voice is through the high notes and through that lovely and plush timbre. And it also has a slight amount of metal. Not like Jonas Kaufmann's, where it's more baritonal, but it has that metallic quality which makes him stand out so well. It has that masculinity and virility and overall charm which has made him so well known all around the world, and it is overall very appealing to listen to. The way he was able to produce all of these wonderful notes with great clarity, and especially with superb diction, made him absolutely wonderful as Tamino, a role he has been internationally well known for. And I can definitely tell that he managed to find a lot of nuances with this prince of a character, and of course, he managed to make Tamino come alive so magnificently. His Papageno was the wonderful Austrian lyric baritone Markus Verba, and he had a lot of exuberance, charm, and an overall beauty which he gave to Papageno, a role he's also been singing in a lot of international opera houses. The way he was able to make Papageno come alive was through his mellifluously gorgeous voice, and of course, his charismatic, exuberant, and fun stage presence. I certainly had a lot of fun with Mr. Verba as Papageno, and I can certainly tell that he has been very appealing in this role, given the fact that he has a lot of experience with singing Papageno in a lot of the major opera houses all over the world. He was definitely so involving as Papageno that I practically managed to have my eyes glued to his performances from beginning to end. He was a charismatic singing actor, all thanks to that focused and gorgeous sounding lyric baritone voice, and he was certainly magnificent in every single way. Stealing the show was none other than Catherine Lueck as the Queen of the Night. Now, it should be no surprise that Madame Lueck sang the Queen of the Night in a lot of the major opera houses, and this has certainly been her signature role for a great number of years. The way she was able to bring out that animalistic ferocity in the Queen, especially in her second act aria, making her perfectly lynx-like with her glowering gazes and her panther-like agility on how she moved about the stage, and of course that fair amount of regalness that she managed to give to the Queen made her an absolute standout. But more than anything, her vocal assets were at their absolute prime. And this is also coming from someone who also saw her as Constanze about a year ago at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. Just by watching Madame Lueck sing one of her all-time signature roles, the Queen of the Night, was an absolute thrill. The way she was able to let it all out with such pure abandon, and of course, her church bell-like timbre made her an absolute star who shone like the brightest platinum, and of course, made herself stand out so superbly. And just by listening to her voice, I can definitely tell that she has a great future in all of the grand dramatic coloratura soprano roles, like Donna Anna from Don Giovanni, Giselda from I Lombardi, Anna Bolena, Maria Stuarda, which she already sang in Canada, Elisabetta from Roberto de Vereux, Giovanna d'Arco, Amalia from I Masnadieri, Marguerite du Valois from Les Huguenots, Isabelle from Robert le Diable, and a lot of other great dramatic coloratura soprano roles. Oh, and lest I forget about Luisa Miller from, of course, Verdi's Luisa Miller, Violetta from La Traviata, Madama Cortese from Il Viaggio a Rome, Mathilde from Guillaume Tell, and of course, Pamina from Le Siège du Courante. I can definitely tell that there is a great future for Madame Lueck in all of these great dramatic coloratura soprano roles. She certainly established herself to be a consummate singing actress, and she shone like the brightest platinum star as the Queen of the Night. And of course, the main reason why I wanted to see this production of The Magic Flute was to see the ever-fabulous South African lyric soprano Golda Schultz making her Met debut as Pamina, a role that she has also been singing in a lot of major opera houses. She has an angelic presence, and with that angelic presence is an equally angelic, lyrical, and silvery and lovely soprano voice. She has been very well known in all of these girlish and really young and lovely characters like Pamina, Susanna, Gretel, and even that of both Mimi and Musetta from La Boheme. Just by listening to her silvery lyric soprano voice, she was able to sell me as Pamina, and she was able to find a lot of tender moments with this iconic Mozart heroine, and I can definitely tell that she had a lot of fun embodying this character. And of course, her chemistry with Charles Castronovo's Tamino was really well done. There is an amazing future for Miss Schultz when it comes to singing all of these wonderful lyric soprano roles, like Marguerite from Faust, Mireille, Juliette from Romeo et Juliette, Antonia from Le Comte of Man, and maybe even both Nella and Lauretta from Gianni Schicchi. I'm not so sure if she already sang Leo from Turandot, but I'm sure that's probably going to be another role to add in her repertoire, because she has a gorgeous timbre and an equally great sense of musicianship. And of course, her Met Opera debut was, in my opinion, a great success. She also shone like the brightest of stars with her girlish and lovely presence, and of course, that silvery and silk-toned soprano voice which she has been very well known for all over the world. Ashley Emerson was a spunky, lively, and really pretty papagena. The way she was able to take a great advantage of her ingenue-ish, girlish, and lively stage presence as papagena was something to behold. This lovely light lyric coloratura soprano certainly made herself an absolute standout in this role, even though it is quite short. She was able to make Papagena a lovely and lively character, and I can definitely tell that Miss Emerson certainly had a lot of fun embodying this really lively and fun character. Rene Pape is always reliable as Zarastro, and he's been singing this role in all of these great major opera houses, and his experience with this role shows. The way he was able to make Zarastro stand tall and wise and quite powerful was something to truly behold. The sense of majesty that he gives to Zarastro is really awesome. And it's really no surprise that René Pape has been extremely well known in singing all of these regal characters, whether they be kings, high priests, or even fatherly figures. The experience that Herr Pape has as Zarastro certainly shows in his great charisma and the way he was able to sing his two arias, O Isis und Osiris and In diesen heiligen Hallen. The way he was able to bring in such nobility and beauty to Zarastro is really, really great. And he manages to also stand out very well, all thanks to that magnificent stage presence, and of course his signature plush and lush basso cantante voice has always made him stand out as a great interpreter of Zarastro. Christian van Horn was also magnificent as the speaker of the temple, all thanks to his round and rich basso cantante voice. Christian van Horn certainly made the role of the speaker his own. I'm not so sure if he even sang Zarastro or even covered the role of Zarastro, but I can definitely tell that this gentleman is also a Zarastro in the making. With his plush and gorgeous basso cantante voice, he definitely stood strong, tall, and proud as the temple speaker. Then we even go to Greg Federley's wonderfully grotesque and wonderfully fun Monostatos, a role that he's also been singing in a lot of major opera houses. And I certainly love the enthusiasm and charisma that he gives to Monostatos, making him delightfully nasty, but at the same time quite a fun character, even though some people could find him a little bit repulsive. And I definitely love how committed Mr. Federley is as a great character tenor. The way he was able to use his voice with a lot of aplomb and richness and fun made him stand out so well. And of course, the three ladies were gorgeously sung by Wendy Bryn Harmer's bright and brilliant spinto soprano voice being put to awesome use. Sarah Mesco's velvety and gorgeous lyric mezzo voice, which manages to produce a fine cascade of tones. And of course, Tamara Mumford's plusher, lusher lyric mezzo voice, which also has some contralto depths, and it certainly made her stand out wonderfully. And together, Madame Bryn Harmer, Madame Mesco, and of course, Madame Mumford stole the show in their own special ways, all thanks to their wonderful musicianship and of course, their fine collaboration. Paul Corona and Scott Scully were equally fine as the two priests, with Paul Corona's plush bass baritone voice, meshing very well with Scott Scully's character tenor voice, which has that lightness and breeziness. And of course, The Two Armed Men were finally sung by Richard Cox, thanks to his fine spinto tenor voice, which has a little bit of steel found in the way he was able to sing certain lines. And of course, Richard Bernstein's always reliable basso cantante slash bass baritone voice, which has that plushness in order to contemplate that of Cox's slightly spinto tenor sound. And of course, special kudos has to go to the three boys who were sung respectively by Lucas Mann, Elliot Flowers, and A. Jesse Schopfloche for having a lot of wonderful singing. And of course, their bright and angelic voices certainly blended pretty well. So overall, what a great evening it was for all the singers. And of course, a great debut at the Met for someone as lovely, grand, and outstanding as Miss Golda Schultz, whose Pamina was wonderfully sung and, of course, wonderfully acted. And special acknowledgement also has to go to last night's host, Nadine Sierra, for her natural screen presence, and of course, the way she was able to compose herself as the host for last night's Met Live in HD production. She was so natural and so down to earth and really lovely as a hostess that I practically hope that she will host a lot more events in the near future. And of course, here's to more awesome engagements in the future. So, Miss Sierra, if you're watching this, I want to congratulate you for your very fine hosting skills from last night's Men Live HD production, because you were definitely fabulous. You also carried the evening so well, and you were just a very natural person. And what more can I say about the conducting done by Maestro James Levine? He certainly is a veteran in his craft, and the way he was able to lead the orchestra and the chorus were all in full evidence. So overall, with Julie Taymor's gorgeous and aesthetically wonderful production of the Magic Flute, coupled with outstanding singing from not only the principal players but also that of the secondary players, and of course Golda Schultz's wonderful debut at the Metropolitan Opera House, this production of the Magic Flute really deserves a lot of high marks for its artistry and of course the skills of such wonderful artists. And for those of you who caught this particular production of the Magic Flute at the Metropolitan Opera House, what did you think of it? Did you feel like Golda Schultz did an amazing job as Pamina? Did you feel like there was someone else who stole her thunder, whether it be Catherine Lueck or Marcus Verba, Charles Castronovo, Renee Pape, Christian van Horn, or any other singer? Or did you feel like there was something that just didn't really hold up? Or even someone who was kind of the weak link in what is a cast of great stars? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in next time for my review of Bellini's Norma, also live from the Metropolitan Opera House, starring Sandro Radvanovsky and Joyce Di Donato as Norma and Adagisa respectively. So until then, good night everybody.